Hey everyone, me Kevin here with some stimulus check updates, PPP, EIDL, and paid leave updates. A lot of information to fill in this one, especially a lot of questions that have come from you in the comments and in the Discord section. Which, by the way, if you still have questions after this video, consider checking out the link down below for the free Discord chat. So if you have questions about stimulus that are not answered in this, ask them there. I read the questions there. I try to incorporate as many of those questions as I can into these videos, so that way I provide as much value as possible. You can use the link down below or go to metkevin.com/discord to join. There are multiple stimulus chat channels, and there's even a meme chat channel where you get to see pleasant memes about Pelosi and Mitch McConnell. Trying to keep it balanced, of course. Gotta mention both. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump on over into the content right after I mention that the coupon code for the programs on building your wealth by investing in stocks, real estate, the YouTube course, the do-it-yourself property management and rental renovations course, that will expire in a few days once the new artwork comes in. And after all, we got the stimulus checks coming down the pike, so we may as well wait a few extra days. All right, now let's hit the updates. Use that link down below. If your stimulus check has not shown up yet via direct deposit, the hope is that it will show up between the 4th and the 6th, which is Monday through Wednesday. If your stimulus check does not show up during this time frame by direct deposit, it's possible that your check is mailed. The IRS's Get My Payment portal is still down, so we can't use it yet to look up what the heck is going on with your stimulus check. We do expect that to be up at the beginning of this week, although hopefully you just get your money before you even need to go into the portal. Now, if you are expecting a mailed check and you moved or you suspect, even if you have a suspicion that your check is going to get mailed, go to USPS.gov and fill out a change of address form. They will that way technically keep your address change on file for 12 months to make sure that any mail that is sent to your old address is now redirected to your new address. So that way, if the Treasury Department puts your old address on your check and mails it, the post office is like, oh, this is supposed to go that way now, and they redirect it. Change of address form, USPS.gov, you should do that. If you received a check for your 17-year-old, the IRS says you can keep it, even though technically 17-year-olds are not eligible. This is because at the time you filed your 2019 taxes, a dependent may not have reached 17 years old yet, but maybe they turned 17 in the latter half of this year, and boom, you got the check, in which case you get to keep it. If you received a check for somebody who passed away, first of all, my condolences, and keep in mind that technically that check isn't written to you, so the IRS might ask for that money back. If you had a baby in 2020, or you're missing a stimulus check for a family member, remember that you can claim whatever correction you need to make on your 2020 tax return. The IRS is preferring that people handle corrections through their tax returns this year, since tax return season is right around the corner. If you still have questions, call the IRS directly at 1-800-919-9835. That is the Get My Payment phone number or hotline for stimulus checks that they have. You can Google that number to verify that it aligns with the IRS.gov website, which is something I always recommend you do when you hear phone numbers online. 1-800-919-9835. Type that in Google, make sure it aligns, get in the habit of doing that when you call numbers. Furthermore, regarding the PPP, the SBA has until January 6th to publish new regulations on the Paycheck Protection Program, and may also then finally publish information regarding the EIDL grants. If you have not gotten your first PPP loan, you should really consider getting it. If you are a small business, self-employed, 1099 contractor, you have a Schedule C self-employment income, any of these things, as long as you had it before February 15th of 2020, you should really consider getting a PPP loan because it's free money. It is a loan, but it is forgivable. You can get up to a loan of 2.5 times your self-employment income or your payroll. So income would be net of your expenses. This gets a little tricky if you don't pay yourself payroll, but it's doable. You talk to your banker, you go, here's my income, here are my expenses, here's how much is left over. Some banks are just using that leftover number as your average income for 2019. So it's something to consider if you're confused, you're worried about it, you're not sure if you can qualify. What I always say is, when in doubt, if you had a business before Feb 15th, get yourself the free money and make sure you get in touch with a banker at either Chase, a credit union. You could go online, although it's questionable if you're going to get that personal attention online. Who knows? Maybe you will now. Try PayPal. These are all platforms you can check out. You can even check out veem.com, VEEM.com. Local credit unions might be more open to hand-holding, especially if you offer to bring over your business to them. So definitely worth investigating. I mean, this is free money that could be a substantial boost for doing very little work. It's worth it. Now remember that if you borrow under $150,000, you only have to fill out a one-page forgiveness form when you're done with the program, which is 8 to 24 weeks later. And that money that you spend on the loan also ends up being not only forgiven, but tax deductible, which basically means you got $150,000 in free money, which you used for business expenses. So you just eliminated up to, in this example, $150,000 of expenses. Plus you get a tax savings of an additional like $30,000 to $75,000 depending on your tax rate. It's really incredible. So like if you're excited about the stimulus check and you have a side hustle or small business, remember, the government bails out businesses first. Take the money. It's really, really good, big money. So if you get anything out of this, if you have a side hustle or business, really think about getting that PPP. If you didn't get the first one, take the first one. If you want a second bite at the apple, your revenues will have to have declined 25% comparing a quarter in 2020 to the same equivalent quarter in 2019. You also get to use the PPP for expanded purposes now, like property damage due to vandalism or rioting, air filters, air filtration, which my favorite air filter is at metkevin.com/air. Check that out. Drive-through window renovations, expanding seating inside or outside. It's really good now. I mean, they're really expanding it now. The only big question right now that remains with the PPP, well, obviously the new guidance that's coming out on the 6th, but it's also whether or not states are going to tax the PPP and how they're going to handle those deductions. So we'll see. We'll have to stay tuned for that. But that just has to do with your state tax return. Now, the new COVID bill does provide an additional $20 billion in EIDL grant funding as well. The way the text of the law reads right now is that first-time grants will be eligible under the same criteria as last time, except your tax return and credit profile may be required instead of being optional like last time. This means the IRS could adopt the same guidance that you're only eligible to get up to $1,000 of a grant per employee that you have. Remember, if you're self-employed, you're an Uber driver, Lyft worker, Instacart, realtor, hairdresser, whatever, you are technically an employee of your own business. So at the very least, you have one employee. You and your wife work together, you got two. You and your wife work together and you have one employee, technically you've got 3 employees. It's the nature of self-employment, in which case you could get up to $3,000. Now, if you haven't applied for the EIDL grant yet, stay tuned. New information is hopefully coming by the 6th on this. We'll see. They only said PPP info was coming on the 6th, so we're kind of deducing that we might hear EIDL stuff on the 6th. But there is a rumor going around that the SBA will increase grants to $10,000 guaranteed, that you should just sit back and relax and you'll get your $10,000. Maybe that's true, but I don't see anything in the law that suggests that. See, the new COVID bill on page 2192, and I'll link it down below, revises the original grant program to increase the fraud detection programs, possibly require a tax return, require a credit check, and also allows them to take up to 21 days to get you a grant. The new law also extends the expiration of the program to December 31st, 2021, and provides for an additional $20 billion. However, there's nothing under that section that starts on page 2192 that says you have to get the $10,000. Instead, they just strike out the verbiage in the first bill, and the first bill says you're eligible for a grant of up to $10,000. However, last time the SBA interpreted up to $10,000 as $1,000 per employee. Now, a lot of congressmen and women were pissed about that, and they're like, no, we wanted $10,000 to go to small businesses. But the SBA said, well, you need to give us a lot more than 20 bill to be able to do that. So anyway, the only way to guarantee $10,000 as a grant at this point is if you are in a defined low-income community and you've suffered an economic loss of 30% and you don't have more than 300 employees. Economic loss is calculated by comparing an 8-week period between March 2nd, 2020 and the end of this year to the same 8-week period before March 2nd, going all the way back through 2019. Now, there's a lot of clickbait circulating about these poverty provisions that they don't matter, they don't apply. The bottom line is, if we look at the bill, it becomes pretty dang easy to realize, no, you know what, they do kind of matter. In fact, what we can do really quickly, and we won't spend too much time on this, but we will just quickly pull up, here it is. This is page 2192. You can see down here, emergency EIDL grants. And then this is where you have the changes in qualifications, the changes in dates. Then you'll see the eligibility changes, again, regarding you have to provide a tax return, or at least a tax transcript, which is usually you just filling out a form allowing them to pull your tax transcript, and then authorizing additional funding up here. Then they get into the repeal of the EIDL advance deduction, which just means if you take a PPP loan, you apply for forgiveness, you don't have to offset what you earned in or what you took in an EIDL grant against what you're taking in PPP forgiveness, which was the old school way. The only section that talks about the $10,000 starts here on page 2185. And this has to do with the targeted EIDL advance. And so this is where there's a lot of clickbait saying, oh, $10,000 grants guaranteed. But yeah, a lot of that is because it's referring to tweets or congressmen and women who are talking about these targeted grants that say you shall receive a total of $10,000, but that is under the targeted provisions, which is, again, the poverty provision, and you have to follow those income decline guidelines. Now, look, is it possible that the SBA is gonna say, hey, look, we had a rule last time that up to 10K meant $1,000 per person, and now we're just gonna all of a sudden change it to 10K? Sure, technically the SBA has the privilege of doing that. However, I wouldn't get my hopes up because there's no indication that this is true, and there's certainly no indication that it's true within the bill, with the exception of folks, again, following those income loss or poverty criteria. Now, regarding the employee retention tax credit, this program has actually been expanded and increased pretty substantially. If you are an employer and you actually have employees, you can take up to 70% of the wages you pay that employee and take a credit of up to $10,000 per quarter against that employee's wages. You can get immediate access to this by reducing your payroll contributions, and you can also look up Form 7200 to see if you can get your credit advanced. It's IRS Form 7200. Now, always very important, talk to your CPA, not any CPA, talk to your CPA because they understand your tax situation. Now, regarding paid leave, also known as the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, the FFCRA. This law required employers with 500 or fewer than 500 employees to provide emergency family leave to employees basically who couldn't work from home due to COVID reasons. Well, basically, employees working for at least 30 days were eligible to receive this money, and you were able to take up to 12 weeks of this leave. The first 10 days were unpaid, but after that, your boss, if you're an employee, or employers, maybe you're an employee, would have to pay 2/3 of the employee's pay, capped at $200 per day, and up to $10,000 in total. Now, there are obviously a lot more details to this, but there was a change in this new bill. The new COVID package does not actually extend the requirements that expired on December 31st. So employers don't have to provide leave anymore. A lot of questions about this. A lot of people wondering, hey, Kevin, like my employer is saying they're not providing benefits anymore or these leave benefits anymore. Employers don't have to anymore. However, employers may. They may voluntarily expand these benefits and continue these tax benefits through, or taking these tax benefits and then providing that pay to their employees through March 31st, 2021. So basically, there is a 1/4 extension, but it is not a requirement that the employer use this program. So that is a thorough update on some things that have been providing a lot of confusion. Hopefully this helps you out. If you found this helpful, consider sharing it, consider subscribing, and folks, we'll see you as soon as there's a new update. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time. Check out those links down below for those courses, by the way, and the life insurance, and the Discord chat. All right, folks, thank you, bye.